Hey y'all, welcome back to Homemade Simple. If we've not met before, I'm Lori, and this week I think it's finally time for us to bring out some of the fall recipes that have been collecting dust in our recipe books. I have 4 delicious recipes that are going to become quick family favorites. They are quick, easy, frugal, and delicious, and I'm really excited to share them with you this week. So come on and let's get started. First up is a cabbage and sausage skillet recipe. I have shared a version of this recipe before, but this is definitely fall inspired. I'm going to start by chopping up some kielbasa sausage. I got turkey this time, but you can get any of your favorite flavor. I'm going to heat this up and brown it a bit with about a tablespoon of olive oil. And while that's cooking, I'm going to chop up 1 onion and 3 cloves of garlic. Now that the sausage is browned, I'm going to remove it, and in the same skillet, I'm going to cook up my onions and garlic. And while the onions and garlic are cooking, I'm going to chop up the cabbage. I'm going to combine the cabbage in the skillet with the onions and garlic and allow that to cook down for about 5 minutes. While the cabbage is cooking, I'm going to chop up and dice 2 apples. I'm going to place the apples in with the cabbage in the skillet and cook them down for about 5 more minutes. And once everything has cooked down well, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of chicken broth, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. I'm going to allow everything to cook together for probably about 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to add the sausage back into the skillet. Allow that to reheat and make sure it's all nice and warm, and then it is ready to serve. This is a super simple and frugal recipe that I think your entire family is going to love. One of our recipes this week is absolutely going to have to include eggs. We have 3 gigantic baskets full of eggs. So let's get started making a quick and easy egg casserole dish. I'm going to put it in the oven this week, but you can throw this in the crock pot and leave it to cook while you are busy doing something else, and it will turn out delicious. I have 2 recipes using sausage this week, so I'm going to go ahead and cook both of these pans up at once, and then we'll get on to putting our egg dish together. I'm going to dice up 5 potatoes for this recipe, but if you would prefer to just buy store-bought hash browns, those would work perfectly fine in this recipe as well. In this recipe, just a minute, wait for Mama. In this recipe, we're going to use about 14 eggs because we have such an abundance and I really need to go through them. But if you do not have an abundance of eggs at your house, you can at least use probably 10, 8 or 10 would be sufficient in this recipe, and any more would just be a bonus and would make it go further. So that's what we're going to do, 14 eggs, but I'm only doing that because I have so many eggs that I don't know what to do with them. Lane is already starting, so this is a little bit of a disaster. Okay, let's see. That's good, you cracked that one by yourself. Okay, can you get the next one? Okay, you want to crack it? Good. Oh dear, we don't want to smush them. If you have a little helper and a piece of shell gets in there, using the large piece of shell to sort of fish it out will get that eggshell out of your bowl really easily. So if you have a tendency like I do to get shells in your eggs when you're cracking them, that's a really easy way of getting that shell out. We're going to add 1 cup of milk. Whisk it together. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, about a teaspoon of pepper. I really don't even like to use a whisk when I'm scrambling eggs. Let's use this fork. The fork will just work so much better. Okay, I think that's good and done. So let's put this to the side. My sausage is cooked through, so I'm going to remove it from the pan, and I'm going to use this pan to cook our potatoes in. I've removed the sausage, but as you can see, there's not a lot of grease left. So I'm gonna have to add some. I have some of this reserved grease that I keep in the refrigerator. Anytime I make bacon or sausage, I just reserve the grease and put it in this mason jar, and then it's ready for me to cook. That's a way to save on your cooking oil. So I'm just gonna heat this up, then we will cook our potatoes. I've rinsed these potatoes to get the starch off. Kelsey tells me that's the way you're supposed to do it. I'm gonna sprinkle about a teaspoon of salt on the potatoes while they cook. The potatoes are getting tender, so I'm gonna turn them off and I'm gonna go ahead and put our casserole together. I have greased my 9x13 pan. I'm going to pour half of the potatoes, add half of the sausage, sprinkle 1 cup of cheese, and then repeat that. And then pour the eggs on top of the casserole. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm gonna start by baking it for 35 minutes and then check it and make sure the eggs are set. It's all nice and done. The eggs are set well. It took about 40 minutes in my oven so I could make sure that the eggs were nice and done. I'm gonna put it on a plate and we'll see what it looks like plated up. The great thing about this recipe is it can be used for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's super simple and easy to put together, and you can put any kind of fruit with it to make it a delicious meal. Our next recipe is going to be a delicious sausage and corn chowder. I'm really excited about this because I have been getting a lot of milk from Winnie, my milk cow, and I'm going to be able to use this delicious cream line for the heavy cream in this milk. Just as an aside, we've mentioned before about my well-used and much loved Dutch oven. It's clean. I've scrubbed it a million times trying to get this black off. It's really just because I cook beans in it, and so the black beans have stained the bottom. But if you do not have a Dutch oven, I would highly recommend that you get one. They are so versatile and so useful. They are wonderful kitchen companions and tools to have. So I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of grease in the bottom of this Dutch oven, let that melt, and then I'm going to cook my onions while I chop up my potatoes. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of pepper, 2 teaspoons of salt, 4 diced potatoes. I don't ever peel my potatoes before I put them in a recipe, just because of the nutritional value that they offer. But if you don't like them, or if some of your family is sort of anti-potato peel, you can peel them first. I'm gonna add 2 cups of chicken stock and 2 bags of frozen corn. My potatoes and corn have been at a boil for probably 15 to 20 minutes now. I'm going to reduce the temperature to low. And I'm going to add 1 pound of that breakfast sausage that I cooked earlier. I'm going to stir this in and give it an opportunity to cool down just a bit before I add my milk. I thought I would show y'all how I pull the cream off of the raw fresh milk. Normally when you buy milk in the grocery store, it has been pasteurized and homogenized. And pasteurized just means that it has been heated to a temperature to kill all of the bacteria, which sounds like a really good thing in theory, but what also happens is there are millions of good bacteria in raw milk that help with your gut health and also help with your immune system. All of the good things that God put into the raw milk, unfortunately, are killed through pasteurization. So that is why I choose to drink raw milk, is just because of all of the health benefits associated with it. Just a personal idea that I have. I'm not pushing it on anybody. But also when you buy milk in the store, this cream line is not visible because they homogenize the milk, which means that they take the milk and shoot it at a really high rate of speed through a small pipe, and it sort of explodes all of the particles of the milk and forces them to incorporate into one homogeneous mixture. So you remove the ability for the cream to rise to the top and then the skimmed milk to go to the bottom. That is why you don't have to shake up a jar of milk or a gallon of milk when you buy it at the store. But when you get fresh milk, you do have to shake it up, or else all that you're going to get is that top cream, and then you're not going to get any of the milk on the bottom. So whenever you're needing cream without the skimmed milk for a recipe, you have to pull the cream off. I like to use this small ladle whenever I'm working with my cream. For this recipe, I'm going to pull off 1/2 cup of the cream. Now, what normally happens is there will be a really thick, almost butter layer of the milk, and that is the heavy cream. And then right underneath that is going to be just the regular cream. And then all underneath is going to be the milk without the cream. And really the interesting thing about the milk that is separated is even though all of the fat has risen to the top, it is still really creamy. So you know the store-bought skim milk tastes a lot like water. But the naturally skimmed milk, even if I was to pull all of the cream off of this milk, it wouldn't at all taste watered down. It would still taste very creamy. So that's just a neat fact that I don't think a lot of us know about raw milk in general. We just don't have a lot of experience with it, and I know it's a little scary, but I promise it's healthy. I promise it's safe. I wouldn't feed it to my family if it wasn't. You can do your own research about it, and if you are interested, I know that there are people just like me looking to find people who are interested in gaining access to raw milk from their family homesteads and family farms. So search that out if you want to, but let's get back to making this corn chowder after I have talked your ear off about the raw milk. I'm going to add the 1/2 cup of cream, and then I'm going to add 3 more cups of the regular milk. I've turned this temperature way down to low so that this will not boil. A lot of times if we boil milk, it might begin to curdle, which will not affect the flavor, but it will affect the way that it looks. So I'm going to leave the lid off. I'm going to simmer this but not boil it, and let it sort of thicken up a bit, and then it's going to be ready to eat. I think I'm going to top it with a little bit of cheese and some sour cream. This is going to be a delicious and hearty soup for the fall evenings. This next recipe is one of my family's favorites, especially to have during the fall. It is a delicious and super simple recipe, but I think it is good enough to be considered a gourmet meal. So let's get started making a bacon wrapped pork loin. I'm gonna start by laying my bacon out on my cutting board, overlapping it just a little. This is gonna make it go a little bit smoother when we wrap the pork loin. Here is my pork loin. I'm going to flip it over so that the wrapped bacon is going to go all the way around it and end up on the bottom. And then I'm just going to flip the bacon up on both sides, and then I'm going to carefully flip it over and place it inside my Dutch oven. Then I can sort of adjust all of the bacon to make sure it's all nice and contained. Now I'm going to take my maple syrup and I'm just going to drizzle it over the top of the bacon. It will end up probably being about 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Let's season it with some salt really well, probably a couple of teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon of salt, and then sprinkle it with some pepper. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to cook this in the oven on 350 degrees. I'm going to check it in probably 2 hours. So this is one of those things that you need to try to do ahead of time, but I promise it is worth the effort of planning ahead. For a quick side, I'm going to roast some broccoli. The girls are out of town, so it's just me and Chris and Lane is not going to eat roasted broccoli, so one bag will do us fine. I'm just going to sprinkle it with a little bit of salt and pour some olive oil on it. Put it in the oven at 400 degrees and cook it for about 20 to 25 minutes until it starts browning. The pork roast came out so delicious. I got a little busy in the afternoon, so this had to stay in the oven for a lot longer than the 2 hours that I intended. But what I did was I just lowered the temperature to about 250 and then allowed it to cook while I was gone, and it turned out perfectly. So this is another one of those recipes that is very forgiving and allows you to be a busy mom and have all of the things going on and still put a delicious dinner on the table. I hope you enjoy this recipe as much as I do. This is one of our favorites. I really have enjoyed sharing these recipes with you this week. I hope that you will give each one of them a try. They are all really delicious and easy recipes, and if you do give them a try, I hope that you will come back and let me know what you thought. Don't forget to share this video with someone who you think might be able to get some use out of these recipes. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I hope you will go and do that today. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to check out these other videos that I'm going to link here, and I hope you have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.